Today we will be exploring the Blenkinsop Creek. The Blenkinsop Creek is located in the urban area of Saanich, British Columbia on the southern tip of Vancouver Island. The creek is quite short in length and has sections that are both naturally occurring as well as man-made features. Here in Victoria, we experience a Mediterranean climate, which can be classified as a CSB using the Köppen climate classification. We experience dry summers with temperature averages that can be as high as 20 degrees Celsius. In the winter, we experience quite a lot of precipitation in the form of rain. This is because the coldest average temperatures in the winter are 4 degrees and are not usually cold enough for the snow to fall. The source of the creek is in the Mount Douglas area as a man-made channel that collects water runoff and drainage from the local area. That runoff collects in Blenkinsop Lake before traveling out the south end into a man-made channel. We can tell these parts are man-made as the channel walls are fortified and the creek runs straight without any meandering that would be found in nature. Once the creek reaches Swan Lake Park, it takes a more natural course and meandering can be observed. It discharges into Swan Lake. The day I explored the creek was slightly cloudy and about 10 degrees Celsius. There was no rainfall that day, however there was the day prior. The creek was quite low energy and had a very slow flow. The creek is situated on fairly even ground and only loses about 15 meters of elevation from its headwaters to Swan Lake where it discharges. The gentle slope accounts for why the speed of the water is so slow. Given that the creek flows so slow, there is only minor erosion and transportation of sediment is limited to only smaller sized grains. I noticed a natural levee that restricted the flow of water. This caused a small pond to develop as well as a small floodplain. This levee looked like it was made of sediment and organic material such as branches and leaves. The levee also created a nick point or waterfall. This occurs when there is a sudden change of slope in a fluvial system. At the nick point, the velocity of the water is increased, which can also increase the erosion further down the creek. This is a picture from the other side of the creek showing the floodplain. The red arrow shows the flow of the water. The levee that is outside of the picture has backed up the creek enough that it now has braided, creating another branch of the creek that meets back up to it just past the levee. Braiding occurs when the river finds a path that has less resistance to its flow. It can be due to less dense sediments or soil allowing for the water to carve a path. Past the nick point, the velocity of the water increased, therefore increasing erosion. That was visible in the undercut bank on my side of the creek. This undercutting happens when the force of the water rushing past it erodes the bank, transporting sediment downstream. It is due to this kind of erosion that streams and creeks tend to meander over time. The creek's discharge will vary seasonally. Because of our dry summers, the creek will run quite low during those times of low precipitation. In contrast, the river will run faster and at a greater height in the winter due to the increase in precipitation. The creek is currently about 15 centimeters below the riverbank in some places. Once the winter precipitation comes, the creek height should increase and be close to the top of the banks. Many parts of the creek have human influence. There are two sections of it that have straight lines. We see one of these straight lines directly south of Blenkinsop Lake and one north of Blenkinsop Lake. These straight stretches of creek are man-made. They are used to channel water runoff. In nature, there is almost never a creek or river that travels in a straight line. This curvy shape of the river is due to erosion and deposition. The fast part of the river erodes the river banks, and on the opposite side, the river deposits sediment. This creates the winding, natural rivers that we are familiar with. In conclusion, the Blenkinsop Creek has an important job transporting water runoff and being one of the largest tributaries to Swan Lake. It has been altered by humans to be more efficient for us, but still has sections that have natural formations. This course has given me the skills to look at fluvial systems and understand the features that are involved in the system. Studying Blenkinsop Creek has helped me understand how these systems work.